Picture this scenario. You finally did it after years of grinding, saving every penny, investing wisely, and probably eating more ramen than any human should consume in a lifetime. You've crossed that magical 7-figure threshold, and your net worth statement shows a number that starts with a 1 and has 6 beautiful zeros trailing behind it. You are officially a millionaire, joining an exclusive club that represents less than 2% of American households. But here is the thing that nobody tells you about reaching that first $1 million. The moment you hit that milestone, everything changes, not just your bank balance, but the entire landscape of financial risks you face. You're no longer just worried about making money. You're worried about keeping it. Keeping wealth is an entirely different game with entirely different rules than building it in the first place. My name is Zenvest, and I spend an unhealthy amount of time thinking about money, wealth preservation, and the mechanics of building real wealth. Today, I want to talk to you about the brutal reality of the wealth building curve. I want to show you why that first million feels like physical agony, like pushing a giant 2-ton slab of granite up a mountain, and why the second million is mathematically and psychologically practically effortless. Phase 1. The agony of the first $100,000 if you are currently starting from zero. I want you to know that what you're experiencing isn't failure, it's physics. The beginning of wealth building doesn't feel like building wealth. It feels like stuffing cash into a mattress that's slowly deflating. You're maxing out your accounts, living below your means, and yet your net worth is crawling forward, like a drunk snail. In this early phase, which usually lasts about 7 to 8 years for the average person, almost all of your account growth comes from you manually shoveling money into it. The compound interest everyone romanticizes is happening, but it's happening on such a small base that it's basically invisible. If you have $5,000 invested and the market goes up a solid 10% in a year, you made $500. That's a nice dinner, but it's not life-changing. It feels like you did 100% of the work and your money just sat there judging you. This is the part where most people quit. They see their friend lease a BMW or go on a luxury vacation, and they look at their brokerage account that says $23,000 after years of sacrifice and think, what's the point? The point is that you're building a foundation, and foundations are underground where nobody sees or congratulates you for pouring concrete. Phase 2. The $25,000 milestone, and the math of momentum here is a piece of math that will shift your entire perspective. Mathematically speaking, hitting $25,000 is the halfway point to $100,000. Most people think wealth accumulation works in a straight line, but linear thinking is exactly why people give up. If you invest $500 every single month at an 8% average return, it takes approximately 3 years and 4 months of consistent contributions to reach your first $25,000. During this time, the vast majority of that money comes from your own sweat and blood. But to go from $25,000 to $50,000, that only takes an additional 2 years and 8 months. The final stretch from $75,000 to $100,000 takes a mere 1 year and 10 months. The first quarter of your journey takes over 3 years, but the final quarter takes less than 2. Reaching $25,000 is the crucial milestone, because you've built the foundation that makes everything else accelerate. This is when the snowball effect begins to fill its sails. Phase 3. The security threshold, $50,000. When you hit $50,000, something happens that goes way beyond your bank balance, actually rewires your brain. This number represents a complete metamorphosis in your relationship with money. Researchers call this the security threshold. Before this milestone, money controls you. You wake up with a knot in your stomach, checking your balance. But at $50,000, you stop being controlled by money and start controlling it. Studies show that people with this level of savings report dramatically lower levels of financial stress and lower cortisol levels. This is the point where your brain stops perceiving money as a survival resource and start seeing it as a tool for opportunity. When you have $500, losing your job is a catastrophe. When you have $50,000, losing your job is an inconvenience. This psychological shift creates what I call the confidence cascade. You negotiate harder for raises because you're not desperate, and you take calculated risks because you have a safety net. Phase 4. The crossover point: $100,000 to $1 million. Once you cross that first $100,000, the equation fundamentally shifts. Suddenly, a 10% market year doesn't give you $500. It gives you $10,000. That is real money, a used car appearing in your account, just because the market had a good quarter. By the time you reach $500,000, your money starts pulling its weight in a way you can finally feel. In a strong bull market, a $500,000 portfolio might grow by $60,000 or $80,000 in a single year. Think about that. The market, this abstract collection of business, earned more for you in 12 months than you could save from your actual job. That is the crossover point. That is when you realize your financial future is no longer tied exclusively to your ability to trade hours for dollars. The existential terror of, if I lose my job, I lose everything, starts to dissolve, because your portfolio is now a second income stream that doesn't call in sick. Phase 5. Why the first million hurts the final obstacle so. If the math is getting easier, why does the first million still feel like a grind? It's because you are fighting 3 massive enemies: lifestyle inflation, debt, and a new target on your back. Lifestyle inflation is the sneakiest trap in personal finance. You get a raise from $50,000 to $60,000, and suddenly you upgrade your apartment and lease a nicer car. Within months, that extra money has disappeared. You're on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and you're not actually getting anywhere. To reach that million, you have to be the person like Sarah, who invests early and stays consistent while everyone else is living it up. In their 20s, debt is the second killer. It doesn't just cost you interest, it costs you opportunity and the psychological freedom to build wealth. And then there is the target on your back, the moment you become a millionaire. You aren't just worried about market crashes. You're worried about lawyers and creditors. In our litigious society, a minor fender bender can turn into $1 million lawsuit if someone discovers you have assets worth pursuing. This is why wealthy people become obsessed with umbrella insurance and asset protection. They have to learn about professional teams, tax optimization, and estate planning just to keep what they spent a decade building. Phase 6. Why the second million is effortless now. Let's look at the math of the second million. This is where the velocity gets absurd. Once you have $1 million invested, the heavy lifting is completely done. If you never added another cent to that account and simply let it sit at a 7% average return, it would double to $2 million in about 10 years. The second million happens while you're sleeping, traveling, or hanging out with your kids. A 10% return on $1 million is $100,000. That is more than the average American household income, generated entirely passively. You no longer need brute force to grow your wealth. You just need to not mess it up. At this stage, your relationship with money gets weird. You might lose $40,000 in a single Tuesday. Market dip what used to be 6 months of salary, and you'll just shrug and go, make a sandwich, because you've internalized that it's not real until you sell. You've moved from playing defense, trying to survive, to playing offense, building a legacy. The second million feels effortless because the math has changed sides. You are no longer the engine. The portfolio is the engine. The habits are automated. You've already learned to pay yourself first and live below your means. It's no longer a sacrifice. It's just how you live. The infrastructure is built. You already have your financial advisor, your tax optimization, and your asset protection in place. I need to be honest with you about something most people won't say. The hardest part of building wealth isn't the math, it's the temptation to sabotage yourself. when you're sitting on $1.5 million. You have options that would have seemed like science fiction when you started. You could buy a lake house cash, or quit your job to travel for 2 years. But if you break the seal and move that money from the vault to the checking account, you kill the exponential phase. You trade permanent freedom for temporary relief. The people who build generational wealth are the ones who realize that the goal isn't just a number. It's a life where the number stops. Mattering. Many people with $3 million in the bank still show up to work every Monday. They aren't there for the paycheck. They're there because they don't know who they are without the job. The portfolio can't fix a lack of purpose. If you arrive at financial independence and realize you have no hobbies, no relationships, and no purpose, you didn't win, you just traded one prison for another. Asterisk, if you're still in the push phase, grinding toward your first $25,000 or $50,000, don't stop, you aren't behind. You're exactly where the math says you should be. It's supposed to be hard right now because you're doing all the work. But keep pushing, because there is a specific point on that mountain where the angle of the hill shifts and gravity stops fighting you and starts helping you. Reaching $25,000 means you are mathematically halfway to $100,000. Hitting $50,000 means you've rewired your brain for confidence. And once you hit that first million, you'll realize that the hardest work is already behind you. If this video helped you understand the snowball effect, or changed how you think about your savings goals, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And give this video a thumbs up. Your future millionaire self is definitely rooting for you to make the smart play here. I'm Zen, and I'll see you in the next one.